Good day to you. Can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. Let's wait. It will start at 12:20.
Hello, Gulzada. Can you hear me?
Yes. How are you?
Fine, thanks. How about you? What about the video?
Yes, it's good. I can hear you. How are you?
Yaxşı. Siz yaxşı mısınız?
Ben de iyiyim.
Okay. Я теперь перепутаю Киргиз с узбеком. Узбекском.
На узбечку похоже стало.
So how is everything? How are the classes going?
It's okay. I made you as co-host. So what about you? Is everything is going okay?
Good. I am just waiting for China to open its border so that I can go back to China.
Really? So you would like to teach there?
I am working as a researcher. I was teaching in Uzbekistan, but they didn't want to prolong the contract of international faculty because of COVID-19.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. So it was not economically suitable for them to keep international staff. So they asked us to leave.
Okay, so now you are in Pakistan, as I heard.
Yes, yes.
Let's wait for
So
others.
are you, sorry, I didn't hear.
Let's wait for others, you said.
Okay. So which class is this? Which class you are teaching?
Actually, it was simultaneous interpreting. And I thought like remote simultaneous interpreting because of COVID-19 situation. So that's why we use some CAT tools and innovation in interpreting. That's it.
So which course is this? Second or third?
It should be course, but I invited all of them. So the second course as well here, as I see. And I don't know, Manara, which course are you?
Can you repeat? Hello, I'm first course.
First.
From first.
Okay. Oh, there is teacher, Yulia Sevedina, right? Did you see?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone.
I invited those first course student. So we are waiting others for maybe 2-3 minutes. You know, would you like to tell something regarding the speech?
So all of your classes are online, yes?
Yeah.
You are not attending any class on campus.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Some of the universities in Kyrgyzstan, they are offering own campus and online classes.
So, dear students and teachers, good day to you. So today we're going to talk about the digital translation technologies. So about the emerging digital technologies. And I invite my friend, he's name is Amar Yunus. He's a doctor, so as well he's academician at School of Humanities University of Chinese, academician, Academy of Science of China, and visiting professor of Tashkent University. So as well, he is a CEO of IMO Innovation Technology company. So he would like to share his knowledge about it. And I appreciate our department, simultaneous interpreting department, that lets us to do this webinar or lecture. So maybe some words from the department. I expect to see Kunduz Ipimkana, but she's not here yet. Maybe Yulia Serezina, would you like to add something?
I actually have just learned about the seminar. I think it will be very useful and interesting for our students to listen to other professors. So welcome. What else can I can say? Just this. I'm very glad that you agreed, Mr. Amar. You agreed to share your knowledge with our students. I think it will be very, very necessary for them, the knowledge that they will receive. And as a teacher, I just have joined for a while when I have time to look at my colleague Gulzada and at you. So you're welcome.
Thank you. So,
okay, thank you very much, Gulzada and Ma'am Julia, for this invitation. I am always available to discuss with the colleagues and especially with the students, because this is how the knowledge progress, by sharing information with each other. And unfortunately, there is a huge communication gap between different parts of the world. Some things are happening in one country and other country is not that advanced just because there is a communication gap. And to decrease this communication gap is also the responsibility of the people who deal with the languages, or we interpreters. So interpreters, basically, they try to decrease the communication gap. So I am very happy that I have been given this opportunity to talk with the students of Alato International University. I have very good memories of my stay in Kyrgyzstan. I myself studied in Kyrgyzstan, and I had been participating in different conferences organized by, then it was called as Ataturk Alato International University. But I have very good memories of my visit to your university and your language department. So I am not an interpreter, but I have some experiences in interpretation. I am basically a lawyer and my area of expertise is technology law. So I did some interpretation with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Shanghaiskaya Organizatsiya Сотрудничество. I was a freelance staff member of Pakistani delegation to Shanghai Cooperation Organization when I was in Beijing in China. So at that time, I had some experience, almost 7 or 8 months, to work as an interpreter with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization with Pakistani delegation. But as an academician, I have my interest in languages and interpretation. And nowadays, I am exploring this new area, which is called as technology, especially technology law. And there is a wave of digitalization in all the Central Asian countries. We have so many projects related to digitalization and technology. And this is the time when interpreters or translators should have to think about their future, that what will be their future in the era of digitalization. So that's why I will just quickly give you a brief of everything. I will try to touch little bit of everything, and then I will leave on you to ask me questions or discuss after the end of this presentation. So if I may share my screen. Just let me know, can you see this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So digitalization and translation profession what is the nexus between digitalization and translation, and why we as an interpreter should consider this digital part of translation as well. Unfortunately, in Central Asian academia, we just focus on learning new languages and we utilize traditional methods. For example, we focus on speaking and listening and reading, and we completely ignore different instruments which are available to facilitate us. So at the end of 5 years, you might have a degree and you are very fluent in 2 foreign languages, maybe 3, or in case of Alato University student, maybe in 4 languages you are fluent. But if you have no information about the modern equipment or the technologies available, your knowledge cannot give its desired output. So that's why this topic is very important for those who want to pursue a career in full-time interpretation. So if as a lawyer I have to explain the nexus between regulations and even innovations, so you can consider that these technologies are new innovations and there are laws of linguistics. So there were laws of linguistics and then new technologies came. Now these laws have to accommodate these new innovations. I will try to explain it with an example. Like you stand on the shore of a river or you go to the AC Cool, and AC Cool's water is still. And then you take a stone and throw this stone into the AC Cool lake, there will be a splash of water. So this splash is innovation. AC Cool is the law of linguistics. You threw a stone and there is a splash. So after this splash, the regulations should accommodate this splash and become calm. So this is how I can more elaborate that these innovations are creating a splash in our linguistic world, and we have to accommodate it to make it calm. This person, his name is Edward Ludham, or we call him Ned Ludd. So in the beginning of 19th century, in 1810, I am talking about the very beginning of 19th century. This is the era of industrial revolution. What happened? It happened that different companies, they started installing machineries. So they started firing people and they started bringing new technologies. And when these new technologies came, people become worried about their future. They thought that if these new technologies will come, we will have no jobs. And what they did, they started attacking on these machineries or in those industries who are installing these new technologies. And these people, they are called as Luddites. So Luddites are those people who oppose technology. They think that when the technology will come, we will have no job. So still today, if a person who says that technology is bad or technology is taking our jobs, we say that this person is a Luddite. Okay, so Luddite is a historical incident, or these people, they oppose technology, and today you can also find many people who say that this technology is very bad and we shouldn't utilize these technological innovations. But it is unavoidable. You have seen these things circulating on social media, that many people are saying that those smileys which we are using are nothing new, but just a reincarnation of something which we have been using previously, like the symbolism and the symbolic language. Traditionally, language started from this sort of symbolism, and today again we have understood that these symbols are much more useful than other linguistic connotations or the words, and we are using them. So in some sense, I can say that we are going back to the philosophy or back to the core of our linguistic or language heritage. From where we had taken a start, we have returned back to that thing. And this is something which is circulating on social media, especially astonishing for those who rely on one sort of job. Like we interpreter, we think that we know the language and we will have a job for eternity. like in Kyrgyzstan, you have Talpa Devushak, Katori Uchitsa, Tolkana linguistike, or Bugaltarski Uchot. So if you go in a university, you will find that these girls, they are going only for Bukhchot and Linguistica, because they think that after getting these degrees, they will find a job in some multinational company. Obviously, they will find, but they should consider this, that without understanding the demands of technology, their information or the knowledge which they will get, they will not be able to give their maximum output. So they should understand the demands of modern era as well. And the demand of modern era is to understand the technology. Otherwise, this thing will happen, what is shown in this photo. I just give you another example. This is from 2019 in China. There was a court. This court was a digital court where Sudhya was robot and lawyers from both sides, they were also robot. And they were discussing the case of a real human person. So you can say that the lawyer, which are considered as very intelligent or very technical in terms of their pragmatic knowledge, they have been replaced by a robot. So there is a judge who is a robot, and there are lawyers of both sides who are robot, and they are contesting their case in a cyber court. So if lawyers are doing so, you can understand what will happen with our profession, translation, which is not considered comparatively as sophisticated as the technical work of lawyer. So if we talk about technologies, people are concerned that there will be robots who will completely replace humans. And even there are some people who are discussing about these types of questions, that will buying and selling of conscious robots considered as slavery? Means if you have a conscious robot and you are doing buying and selling of these types of robots, is it considered as slavery or not? I mean, people are discussing these sort of questions on academic level. And we all know that there is a United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. And now people are demanding that we should have a declaration of global digital human rights. Like in original life, we have human rights like right to eat, right to freedom of movement, freedom of expression, yes, right of good health care. Similarly, on cyber world, we are claiming many rights. For example, right of privacy, freedom of expression is also there. No one should breach your data and so on. So now human rights activists, they are demanding that we should have a UN declaration of global, UN declaration of digital human rights. Sorry, there was a call. Wait a minute, please. Okay. Excuse me. Yes. So what is artificial intelligence? What is artificial intelligence? Let it make interactive. So if any one of you wants to give any comment or want to ask any question, he can ask me, because I am very much comfortable with this format of lecture. So you shouldn't be just listening, you should be interacting. So if you have any input, you can just raise your hand, you can stop me and you can give your input, okay? So like this, it will not be that boring. So the question is, what is artificial intelligence? Did you listen this word or not? Can anyone tell? Anyone?
Yes, please, students. Yes, I heard about it, artificial intelligence. So maybe students will talk.
Artificial intelligence, have anyone heard about it? So artificial intelligence, if we say, was there someone who was trying to speak?
Yes, may I?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so of course, we all heard about this. In 21st century, there is the high-tech evolution, and many scientists from West are creating this artificial intelligence when the not person, but it is created like with the robots and with the technology intelligence to help to make life to step to one step forward.
So basically artificial intelligence, there is no single definition, but understanding is same what you were saying, that there are robot or there are technologies who can perform their function by themselves. And we consider that this intelligence is doing it by itself. It is thinking by itself. So this is artificial. So artificial intelligence. There are different understandings of artificial intelligence. For example, you sit in a Yandex taxi, or I don't know what kind of taxis nowadays you have in Bishkek, a Moto taxi or a Alpha taxi. And there is a machine in your mobile phone which tells you that go straight, take right, take left, and so on. For some people, this is artificial intelligence. I have this mobile phone and it says that you have an AI powered camera. So this camera is equipped with artificial intelligence. We have all seen this sort of interpreting devices, like Google is providing this. WeChat and other softwares also have this simultaneous translation. For some people, this is artificial intelligence. So every person have its own understanding of artificial intelligence. For example, you write something on Microsoft Word, and Microsoft Word give you the word recommendations. So for some people, it can be an artificial intelligence, yes. So everyone is defining its own terms and conditions of artificial intelligence, but there are different scenarios in which we can clearly see that how the ordinary intelligence is different from artificial intelligence. So this was a Russian chess player, we all know him, and this was the IBM computer who defeated this chess player who was the world champion. And then there is a famous case of AlphaGo and Go1. It was also a board game, Go game, and the world champion, he actually contested with the computer and computer won. And then there was a boom of these sort of experiments, that how sophisticated these technologies have become. So if someone asks that what is artificial intelligence, there is no single definition, but there are two understanding. What is narrow artificial intelligence and what is general artificial intelligence? Narrow artificial intelligence is specific in purpose, and general artificial intelligence means it can do everything like a human. So at present, we have narrow artificial intelligence, and we are working for making a general artificial intelligence. What does it mean? Narrow artificial intelligence means there is a computer who can perform a specific function better than a human, but it is just one function. For example, there is a translation device, it can translate better than a human. So we will say that it is installed with narrow AI. But this computer cannot cook food better than human. This computer cannot drive better than human. But in future, we will have such computers who can do everything better than human. Then we will say that this is general AI. Okay. So if I have to define different categories of artificial intelligence, the super intelligence is the concept which defines general AI, means super intelligence. There will be computer in future who will be much more intelligent than human. We will call him super intelligent computer. So there are three types of super intelligence. Speed super intelligence means a computer which can perform a human function at a better speed. For example, you can read a book in 2 days. There is a computer who can read a book in 2 minutes. So we will say that this is a super speed super intelligence, speed super artificial intelligence. Then there is collective super intelligence. Collective super intelligence means there are different computers, and if we calculate their work, their collective work will be much superior than a human work. So there are small computers, And if we plus their output, their collective output will be better than human. So we say that it is collective superintelligence. And then we have quality superintelligence, which means there is a computer who can perform human work, but on a better quality. For example, you have to write your thesis or course via Robota, and at the end you can cite only 20 sources because you could find only 20 sources on internet, or you could read only 5 books. But this computer will write the same course via, but it will give 200 references or 300 references. Means the work will be same, but on a better quality. So we say that this is the quality superintelligence. So these are 2-3 types of superintelligence. And in terms of linguistics, we already have these narrow superintelligent robots who can do better performance in terms of speed, in terms of collectability, in terms of quality. So if I say that the artificial intelligence in translation, we already have super intelligent computers in translations. Okay, so this is an example of exponential growth. In 1900, we had a computer whose speed was 10 raised to power minus 5 calculations per second. And today, we have a computer who is as sophisticated as a brain of a mouse. And this growth is happening exponentially, means we are making more and more intelligent computers who are able to perform human work on a much better intelligent speed or quality or collectability. So what is exponential growth? Exponential growth is not 1 plus 2 is 2 plus 2 is 4, it multiplies. So in terms of translation technologies, the technologies are multiplying. So you can compare it like this, that this is a brain of a human and this is a brain of a chimpanzee. But if you look at the X-ray, there is not much difference. So you can compare that today's translators, they are not like Einstein, they are much more inferior than Einstein, and our computers are Einsteins if we talk about translation and interpretation. And this growth is happening exponentially. For example, the very sophisticated interpreter, he is still equal to a village idiot. And the latest computer in translation which is available, it is performing on the speed of Albert Einstein. So I think that I have made my point clear and you have understood what I wanted to say. And if some of you are interested in technology, this is a sketch. All of you who have computer, now I am using this Core i5 computer. There are the Core i7 computer, Core i9 computer. And this Core i7 computer is performing functions better than a mouse brain. And it is expected that in near future, we will have a computer which will perform much better than a human brain. So tell me the year you think that there will be 50% chances that machines will have human level intelligence. Any idea? Do you have any idea or any guess that in which year we will be able to have a computer which will be performing much better than a human in all dimensions? Can anyone give any guess? No one? Any idea? It is just an idea.
Are there any ideas according to it?
You know the idea because I sent you the presentation.
Yeah, I know.
Anyone from students? In which year you think that we will have a computer who can perform much better than a human?
I think that it will take approximately 30 years. Because if you go back to the history, for example, 20 years ago, everything was emerging. And maybe in 30 years, the computers will be much better and maybe better even than we.
Yes. So The idea is that in 2045, we will have some computers who will be performing much better than humans in all domains. And this is not very far. All of you, no one knows when he will die, but just think good. All of you will have a chance to meet these computers, and we are expecting. And it is not possible, it is not astonishing. Like 10 years ago, I know that there were not many technologies available to me, which are now available, this camera or laptop or mobile phone or these sort of things. They were not available even 10 or 15 years ago, but now we are utilizing them. And it is possible that in near future, which is 2045, if you are following the Elon Musk, you know Elon Musk, the American scientist, he's sending so many things in space. He has very interesting ideas, so you can watch some of his videos on YouTube. You will see that they are very interesting and how revolutionary and futuristic ideas he is presenting. So up till now, what I said, I just wanted to give you an overview of technology, that where the technology is going. Okay. So up till now, this was the idea. Now I will come to the linguistics. Now I will come to the languages. So we know that this is a communication cycle. Do you know the communication cycle? What is the difference between speaking and communication? Can someone tell me what is the difference?
Maybe speaking, it is when you just speak like a monologue. You tell your speech, but communication is also when you listen and you interact.
The answer is right, that the communication is when one person or one machine or anyone is speaking, other person is listening and giving its feedback. So it is two-dimensional, two-sided, kind of communication. So speaking is like I am speaking and you are listening, but in communication, I am speaking, you are listening, and you are giving me feedback. So I am sender, you are receiver, and we are communicating and you are giving me feedback. This is called as communication cycle, and this cycle goes on. So linguistic people, you are all studying languages. Now I will speak some technological terminologies. I think that you will be able to understand. So what does sender does? Sender encode the words into speech. So encoding. Then he selects a medium. Medium can be a mobile phone, computer, or if it is face-to-face communication, then this air is a medium. So the sender encodes a message and throw it into the medium. And this message is communicated to the receiver. Now, when the receiver receives the messages, what does he do? He decodes the message. So the sender send the words and receiver receive the words, and after receiving the words, he have to decode it in his own mind. Let me give you an example. In English, we say that you are smart. You are smart. So one interpretation is ti krasavchik, ti umnichlavik. Yes, you are good. And the other interpretation is, other decoded message is ti ochin shustri chlavik, ti ochin hitri chlavik. Yes. So you are smart. I said you are smart, but the other person, he can misdecode my message. I wanted to say him ti krasavchik, but he can say that Mr. Amar is saying me that ti ochin shustri chlavik, ochin hitri chlavik. Yes. So it's mean that he has misdecoded my message and my communication cycle has some faults. Okay. So the purpose of the people who are in translation process is to ensure that your receiver is receiving the correct decoded message. or he is decoding your message as you have encoded. Okay. So when he will decode your message, he will give you a feedback. So if he says that Spasiba Balshoy, Mr. Amar, Yauchin Blagadariu, so it's mean that he has decoded my message as the Ochin Umni Chilavik or the Krasavchi. Yes. But if he says that Shtota Koya, what I have done, it's mean that he have decoded my message as he has understood the Ochin Shustri Chilavik. So the responsibility of the interpreter is to ensure that your communication cycle remains functional. Okay, did you understand? And your receivers are decoding your messages as you have encoded. Now focus on different stages of this communication cycle. In all of these stages of communication cycles, we have technologies available. We have technologies available for sending, encoding, for communicating, selecting a channel, receiving. All of us have a technology for receiving. Naushniki, yeah? It is a technology for receiving the message. Then we have technologies to decode. Then we have technologies to feedback. So whenever you think about technologies and your role in interpretation world, just think about this communication cycle and think that at which stage you need a technology to assist you. For example, some people, they are very good speaker, but they are not very good listener. Like me, I am very fluent in speaking. I love to speak, but I don't want to listen. So I have a problem in my communication cycle in the stage of receiving. Sometime I misdecode the message. So if I need to install a technology, I will install a technology in this stage where I decode the message. So all of us interpreters, all of us who are involved in translation, we should think our own communication cycle. And then we should think that at which stage we need technology. Okay. Did you understand this idea?
Yes.
Yes. Please just say yes, no, like this. I get motivation that you are understanding something. I am not speaking to myself. Okay. So if there will be a problem, yes. Do you have any question? No? Okay. So there are examples when our communication cycles went wrong and people very confidently, they put it as it is and they don't realize that they are wrong. For example, this Chinese restaurant, he translated this Chinese word of restaurant into maybe Google Translator or some other translator, which says translation server error. And they just thought that it is the translation of the restaurant and they just posted it on their billboard. Yes, very confidently. So these sort of problems can happen. If we look at internet, we can see that the most of the content is available in English. And this content is available in English. And if we talk about the user of internet, there is a division between English and Chinese speakers. So most of the content is available in English. But the people who are using the internet, they are not all, or they are less than 50% who understand English. So from here, you can understand the importance of translated content on internet. Means if you want to get information or if you want to get maximum from internet, you have to understand English, or you should develop the tools and instruments which can translate that information into your language, because majority of the languages, majority of the portion of the data available on internet, it is in English. And there are some cultural biases when it comes to the interpretation. You all, I am sure by the fourth year, you might have a cultural linguistic subject or something, society and language, or something like this, in which you understand that what is the role of different sort of cultural backgrounds and their impact on your interpretation skills or the languages as a whole. So this is also a difficult area in which technology is trying to intervene, that how we can make technology which is acceptable for all cultural domains. So now I come to the technology and the categories of technology. In terms of categorization, we can divide them into 4 categories. The CAT tool or computer assisted translations. Like in your computer, you can have a software, you can type English, it can translate to Russian and Russian to English. This is computer assisted tool. Then there is machine translation, that machine automatically translate. For example, you open a website and the Google Translate automatically translates the whole page for you. And then there is a content management system. Content management systems are for specific industries, for example, tourism, medicine, education. Perivodit adnoi toje kajdi din. And these content management system, they have specific vocabulary for that person to facilitate him. So we have these content management system, and then there is a translation management system. Translation management system is a bigger understanding which integrate all sort of systems. So if I say you are using technology for translation, it should be falling in one of these 4 categories. Okay. So in future also, when you look at a technology, you should understand which categories it falls. It is computer assisted technology, machine translation, content management system, or it is a translation management system. So all the technologies, they fall into these categories. Then there are 2 types of systems available: language generators and language recognizers. So from the word, you can understand language generators, those technologies which generate languages, and language recognizer, those technologies which recognize technologies. Yes, so I will not go into the details. I know that you have understood by this that what I meant. Language generators, those softwares, computer system which generate, and language recognizer which recognize the technology, recognize the languages. So top 5 translation technology tools. So CMS integration. CMS integration is nowadays very much in use. This is a tool which connects your system to a translation mechanism. Like I gave the example of website. The Google Translate there is a kind of CM integration, means you don't have to find a new software to interpret your page. It is automatically interpreted. Then we have another type which is called as machine translation. I gave you the example that there are a number of computers software available. You can just put a paragraph or any content and it can translate it into any other language, and it is used to reduce the cost. They are becoming very sophisticated, like English to Russian and Russian to English. It is now very easy to do by using just simple softwares. And then we have language assets. Language assets, I told you that they are specific for the industries. For example, medicine, education, tourism, politics, diplomacy, they have their specific vocabulary. And these systems, they have these chunks and portion of those vocabularies, because they know that he will use the same word again and again. So he tried to facilitate you by using those words. Yes. And then we have instant ordering. On internet, you go on website. This website is a Russian website, but it offers you to order in English. If you are a Chinese, you can order in Chinese. If you are a Japanese, you can order in Japanese. So this also is a kind of technology which is integrating e-commerce with translation. For example, online store on e-commerce, you go and you just order, and this form is available in your own language, or you can just demand which language you want to interpret it, or in which language you want to order. You can simply order it, and when it comes to your computer, the computer will tell you in your own language. For example, my native language is Urdu. I made a company and then I install this function. Now any Japanese can order anything, but when I will receive his order, I can understand in Urdu language. Yes. And the middleman job is done by the technology or the interpretation software. Yes, and now there are very sophisticated softwares. For example, you have seen this when Trump and Clinton, there were some videos on internet. You can go on YouTube, you can find some videos of Hillary Clinton, and Hillary Clinton is looking like drunk, and then it was used as a negative for Hillary Clinton, but actually later it was realized that these were computers, or these were done by using different softwares. So there are softwares available who can make your image, and then they can show you that you are speaking this, but in reality you are not speaking this thing, and it can have some serious political or other consequences you can realize by yourself. Then this is becoming very famous, augmented reality, or virtual reality and mixed reality. What is this? There are different tools available, like Google Glasses, or Google has made this gadget, IBM made this gadget, different other companies have made this gadget, in which you can feel yourself in another world. So you can wear these glasses, and these glasses will show you another world, and in which you are in real, and you are doing whatever you want to do. And these technologies are being used by different companies, and now different schools in Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan as well, they are slowly installing these gadgets of virtual reality and augmented reality and mixed reality to facilitate the learning process for their children. And this is very interesting thing which happened in Kazakhstan. They reported this case. So this was a Korean company, if I am not mistaken. This is the original image, and you can go on this website. I will share this later, and you can go on this website and you can see that this was a mother. Iyo dochka umirla, wotana dochka. So the scientists, they created this gadget in which she could meet with her dead baby. So when you will see this video, Chintrogitilnaya, very disappointing for some people. And these glasses, these gloves, with these gloves can give her a feeling of touching. So Dojka Umirla, the daughter died. The scientists made these glasses and these gloves. Now she can meet her daughter in virtual reality, and she can even touch. So this is a very, very advanced concept in which you can involve not only your knowledge but your emotions as well. And then there were a number of comments that, do we need these types of technology? Isn't it interference in the God work? Or why we make such technologies which can make people emotional, and they should stop thinking about their actual job? And there are other moral and ethical dilemmas which are connected to this. So are you listening me? Hello?
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Interesting.
Just keep saying hello, hi, okay? Okay, so let's move on. This is a game. You can go on internet and you can find there are a number of games available. This is a Second Life. Second Life is a computer game. In this game, you can choose your avatar. In this life, you are a professor. In that life, you can be an interpreter, or you can be a dancer. So in other life on computer, there are other people, you can interact with them, and you can do whatever you want to do. You can marry, you can find a boyfriend, girlfriend. You can, if you are an architecture, you can construct a house, and then you can sell this house to someone else, and so on. So these technologies are very useful for interpretation purposes as well. Go on internet and see, there is an interview of Barack Obama, and he is sitting with an anchor from a distant country. This anchor is in another country and Barack Obama is in another country, but it looks that they are interacting with each other in virtual reality. But second life is even an advanced concept. What happens that in second life, you feel that you are a real human in second life. There have been number of cases when those people who had any conflict in the second life inside the computer, they had a conflict and they brought their conflict to the real court. For example, there was an architecture. She designed a house inside the game, and then another person inside the game copied this house. And this first person, who was the author, she went to the original US court saying that this person has violated my copyright. And then there was a conflict that the other person is avatar, you are making something inside the game, and you are claiming a real actual claim, but these things are happening, yes. And this is about the societal impact of technology, that how we are making technologies, how we are using technologies, and how we are attaching our emotions and feelings and even economics and politics to these technologies. So just go on internet and search about this second life and similar scenarios. This is me in Microsoft's headquarters in Beijing, China. And this is the computer which I am using. So this is the software. If you speak in any language, he can translate it into English. So if you speak in Urdu, he can translate in English. You can speak in Russian, he can speak in Chinese. So it is becoming more and more sophisticated. And I went and I met with the team who actually worked on this project. And this is the actual image. If you want to see, there are different like one is Russian, Chinese, English, Urdu. You speak in the microphone in Japanese language and it shows you the translation into that language. So практически работа не осталась. All of those who are thinking to make interpreter in future, if you are not thinking about integrating technologies in your life and only want to rely on your language skills, there is no need, because we already have sophisticated softwares who can translate. And after 10 years, when you will be in market, these computers will become more sophisticated. So I am showing you this, that this is actually happening. Then what is the future of translation? In conclusion, the impact of technology on the translation or interpretation is undeniable. I have given you so many examples. Technology will always be here, and it always will impact on humans, because humans will always be speaking different languages. It will take so long for all of us to start speaking English. So always we will need interpreters. Yes. So technology and interpretation will go hand in hand, and the work of translator will become less and less, the traditional work. But there is one hope for translators or those who are pursuing a career in translation, that robots will never be able to make new language in terms of its colloquial usage. For example, the Russian concept of Danet. When I started learning Russian, it was very difficult for me to understand Danet, that this person is saying da and net, and together Danet. So this is a colloquial expression. So these sort of expressions, they keep emerging. They are emerging in every language on daily basis. And this is something which is very difficult for robot to understand, because language is progressing and robot is still there, and artificial intelligence robot is still process data. So it will take for a robot some time to make itself that advanced that it can understand the colloquial language progression. And during this period, you have a job, because you as an interpreter can best decode the message. in many cases, still you can do best decoding of the message as compared to very sophisticated translating software. So that's all for today. These are two of my projects, Central Asia Tech Law. You can Google. I am working on technology laws in Central Asia, and this is my consulting company, IMO Innovation Consultant. We provide different services for students as well, for businesses, for government, for individuals, and all sort of services. So I welcome you to visit. And these are my contacts, my email address, my WhatsApp and Telegram. I am always available for students if you have any questions. My personal photo blog is ammaryunus.com. These are two other websites of my projects. So you can contact me with your questions anytime, whenever you want. You can send me email, you can send me messages, or you can just visit my website to see what I am doing these days. Thank you very much once again for your attention. It was an honor and privilege for me to be a guest speaker in this class. If you have any questions, I am free to answer. You are free to answer, and I am available. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Interesting. And Kundusa Kinkadova, she joined it. Maybe she will say something about the lecture.
Thank you, Dr. Omar. I'm the chair of the department. So it was really interesting, and I hope everyone enjoyed it. Yeah, it was quite silent during your presentation. Yeah, students were not really active.
Yes.
But yeah, anyways, thanks a lot. And we wait for you anytime in the future. So please, maybe next time you can join us with another presentation, and yeah,
Yes.
maybe something interesting.
So if students have any questions, if they want to ask anything.
Yes, please, students. Questions?
I have.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, Mr. Amar. So you showed us this communication cycle.
Yes,
and
yes.
you said that we can decide at which stage we want the technology to be used. So which, I'm wondering which part is left for us?
You know, all of us, they know that what are the loopholes in their own communication cycle.
Mm-hmm.
I gave an example that I speak very good, but I am not a good listener.
Mm-hmm.
So in future, if I will need a technology to make my communication cycle perfect, I will need a technology at the decoding side or the receiving side to assist me to make my communication cycle more sophisticated. I give you another example. Sometimes when we talk on Zoom, I am a sender, you are a receiver. I am speaking through a channel, which is this computer. Sometimes when there is a problem with voice, I have to use microphone. So this is a technology which is assisting in the transmission or the medium part of my communication cycle. Yes. In terms of listening, sometimes I can listen the computer, and sometimes I need to use the hands-free because I cannot listen. So there are individuals, you as an individual, first of all, you have to understand your own communication cycle, and then you have to realize at which point you need a technology to assist you when you are dealing with language. When you are in professional environment, you are sitting with the PASOL or minister, then there is no time and there is no gap of mistakes. Yes. Adin,
yes.
Slav, Tuda, Suda, and the whole communication will be destroyed. Yes. And at that point, if you are doing mistakes on regular interval, maybe you can use technologies. For example, when I was doing interpretation on very high level events with the high level delegations in Shanghaiskaya Organizacija Сотрудничества, I always had my mobile phone in my hand. So if I didn't know any word, I would quickly type and see its meaning, you know. So this was a problem with my listening at that time. So you should evaluate your own communication cycle, and then you are better judge that which part is weak and what sort of technology you need. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. It's clear now.
So if there is
Any other questions?
no question, yes.
And please video on.
Okay, so if there is no question, then we can conclude.
I have one question.
Yes, please.
Mr. Amar, what do you think? Which of the tools in the translation which you presented us, which of them is more reliable?
More reliable?
Yeah.
So all of these tools, they are reliable in terms of their usage. For example, I need a tool for just translating web pages. Yes. So this is enough for me. But if it is a big company which has many employees from different ethnic and linguistic and cultural backgrounds, they need to install a very good language management system, because there will be usni rasgavor, pismini rasgavor, there will be different verbal and non-verbal expressions. So sorry, I forgot one important thing, that there is verbal communication and non-verbal communication, like your gestures and this and that. So we also have technologies which can decode your non-verbal gestures. Another example is facial recognition cameras. Bishkek also installed these facial recognition cameras on different places. For example, for traffic, they have imported this technology from China. Chinese facial recognition cameras are very sophisticated. If you are walking, they can look at your face and they can tell that you are angry, you are sad, you are happy, you have a bomb, you have a pistol, you have a money, you are frightened, you are threatened. So like our verbal communication is becoming sophisticated, our non-verbal communication is also getting assistance from different technologies, and different technologies are becoming more sophisticated to decode your non-verbal communication. Yes. So it depends on the scenario, in which scenario you want to use technology, what are the demands of that scenario, what are the requirements. Also, finance play a very important role, because technology comes with money. If you don't have money, you cannot install technology. So there are many factors. Usually it depends on the scenario, the context. Yes.
Thank you for answering.
May I ask?
Yes, Aidai.
Dear Amar Yunus, could you please suggest or recommend any good, with effective study university for study the machine translation? So I'm fourth year student, and I'm deciding where I would study. And I see the future in this machine translation. Could you recommend some universities?
Very good question. Very good question. And this is for everyone. And I will give a little bit background of this, because all of you are students of junior classes, that this 21st century, there is so many things. There are so many things available online. There was a time when there was monopoly of teachers on the knowledge. If you have to receive knowledge, you will go to the teacher, like it was 50 years ago. But today it is not like this. There are so many sources available, like YouTube, Google, blah, 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 digital libraries, your own libraries. There is no monopoly of knowledge of teacher. This area is monopoly free. So you don't have to be worried about getting admission into a university for learning something. You can learn it by yourself. And when it comes to the technology, as early you will start, that early you will reach your goal. If you are in first year, just start watching movies on YouTube, start reading about technology. There are bunch of websites available. On Facebook, there are a couple of groups available. You can join them and you can start just understanding what's happening in the technological world. And slowly, by the end of 4th year or 5 year, when you will get your degree, you will have enough understanding of technology, and then you can integrate your learned skills from the university and your learned skills from outside of the university, and you can find a better profession for yourself. So I don't recommend people who are in linguistics to formally study technology, but I strongly recommend your department administration is here, that you should introduce one course about technology and interpretation, or technology, societal impact of technology and interpretation, or something like this. It shouldn't be compulsory, it can be optional, but students should have at least one course in 5 years so that they can understand what's going on. Yes, it is something which they need. For your question, the concluding remarks are, don't worry too much about technology and don't forget about technology. Just give him a little bit touch. Start learning today, slowly. By the end of 5 years, you will be able to understand and you will be able to integrate your language with your technology. Yes, there no need to worry about formally studying the technology. Just go on internet and start exploring what technologies are available, how they function. And I think that is more than enough for now.
I have a question, if it's possible.
Yes.
So
I don't know
good
how much
afternoon.
time we have, but if how long is your class? We have time? Yes, please.
I guess we have 6 minutes. Yes.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yes, please.
So you said that you are working as an interpreter too, and have you dealt with the interpreting process when there was a pandemic? Yes, and what kind of remote platforms have you been using yourself, and what remote platforms you're suggesting us to use, and for what platforms we can rely on?
You know, I am not a full-time interpreter. In the beginning of my lecture, I said I did interpretation with the Pakistani delegation to Shanghai Sky Organization Сотрудничества, SCO. And this was just because I spoke Russian, and the official language of this organization is Chinese and Russian, and there were not many people in Pakistan who could speak Russian. And also the language was technical, and my degree is in law. So that was something which was suitable for me to sit with our ambassador or representatives and help them in understand these different documentations. This was my experience as an interpreter. In terms of technology, I started using these online technologies in 2015. In 2015, I did a master's in political marketing from Italy, from Rome Business School, Italy. And this required us to, take some classes online and some classes offline. Means like 6 years ago, I did my degree by this mixed kind of hybrid kind of learning. And at that time, we were using the software called as WebEx. It was also very good, sophisticated software. But if you are talking about the software nowadays, I am using Zoom and VoV. VoV is a Chinese software. You can, it is also like Zoom. There is no time limit in VoV, and VoV is good and Zoom is good. So if we talk about which software I have used the most during this pandemic period, I think that I have used the VoV, number one, and then this one, Zoom. There are a bunch of learning management systems available. So you can type this on Google, learning management system. You can find there are thousands of learning management systems available for students. where students can upload their courseworks, students can read, download the books and blah, blah, blah. Teachers can give assignments, they can record lectures and so on. Yes.
Yeah,
So,
some, like CUDA have learned in Superfy. Yes, Kursada.
yes. So I think that these are now in trend. Zoom is doing very good simultaneous interpretation also. I don't know if you have experience of attending these Zoom conferences with the simultaneous interpretation. There are also options available from where you can switch the languages. 4 or 5 interpreters, they are speaking on Zoom, and it is up to you. You can select from the menu which language you want to listen. Yes, so it is also very good. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, we are using Zoom when we are studying. So if there is no questions, thank you very much for your presentation, lecture, and advices. It was very interesting. And thank you for being able to come to this lecture. And
yes, thank you very much. Pleasure is all mine. I can see that this is recording. Just send me the recording or at least the link so that I can share it with my other students as well. Okay.
Yes.
So just students as well and the faculty and the staff, thank you very much once again. Just keep in touch and keep sharing your knowledge with me, and keep me updated about your progress. Hopefully we will meet once again in future. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Have a nice day. Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Kurzada.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Ms. Kurzada, thank you for the opportunity.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.